This week's ×10 event has some pretty fantastic, epic, and legendary champs such as Doompriest, Basher, and Bad-el-Kazar. Welcome to Raid Story Legends with me, LeilaFox. Hey there, welcome to Raid Story Legends. I am LeilaFox. This is a weekly YouTube series where I share lore from some of our favorite champs in Raid Shadow Legends. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different than what you are used to, so please make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave me some comments down below and let me know if you like this new format. This week is a ×10 event with some pretty fantastic champions. We're talking about Altan, Bad-el-Kazar, Martyr, and some really great epics such as Doompriest and Basher. Now, a lot of times some of these champs have very short stories, which are too short in fact to share on a YouTube video by themselves, and not all champs have stories to share. However, in this 10x event, there are 5 champs that have stories, and those are the ones I'm going to share with you today. Make sure you also check down below in the description. I will have some timestamps that we can make sure that you catch up on the story for one of your favorite champs. So let's get right into the lore. Here is the story for Doompriest. Doompriest is a missionary of the Night Revenant death cult. Her faith is strong, as is her command of the dark magic of Clef. Like all priests, she dedicates much of her life to worship, but she derives her power not from prayer, but from dark ritual and sacrifice. A lovely young girl when she first joined the cult, she now covers her face with a mask to ensure the docility of her victims. With each innocent soul sacrificed, her own bore and taint of her deepening evil and corruption. Her once beautiful visage has decayed with each step down this path and is now a horror to behold. So this is the story for Doompriest, and again, it's one of the shorter ones that I haven't had a chance to share. She's a pretty strong epic. I would say that she's one of the epics that people do take into them pretty deep into the game. Even, we're looking at Faction War 21. Initially, when I was looking at this story, I thought that they would have considered Doompriest as a group, but it's interesting that they actually consider Doompriest as a champion on her own. This is the story for Basher. Basher has never honored Skinwalker's traditions and never believed in Cherokee legends. The only thing he believes in is brute force. Having been exiled from his tribe in his childhood, he went to the south over the Red Spike Mountains, where he served first as a scout for the Orden Lords, then as cutthroat and torturer. Basher never speaks of his past and has never uttered his real name that was given to him by his mother. What makes him proud is his current nickname, Basher. So this is another story that is rather short and I haven't had a chance to share. And I'm actually intrigued that they made a story like this for a Skinwalker, because a lot of the Skinwalker stories that they share, it seems like the Skinwalkers no longer have that human part of themselves and they become more bestial. This one seems like he actually still has a human part attached and hasn't gone complete animal. So I think that this one was very interesting. This is the story for Golden Reaper. The dark cults of the Night Revenant have a very special reverence for death and its symbolism. This is not unexpected, as many of these deviants believe the coming of Siroth will bring about the end of days. They engage in morbid rituals, often decorate their armor and weapons with dread imagery. Among them, a former Knight of Karok stands out. Though her name has been stricken out of all records, the Golden Reaper is rumored to have been a notable figure among the King's Guard. It is unclear how she was turned to the worship of Siroth. Likely corrupted nobles at court or spies of the various cults that ever vie for more prominent converts. The process took years, but in the end, she was a fully fledged member of the cult and participated in a grand plot that almost saw the king assassinated. Though ultimately failed in her goal, the traitor managed to slay several of the guard and escape with her life, heading eastward to the Stormwind Wastelands. Now, one of the prominent traitor knights, the Golden Reaper, as she calls herself, has adopted a new image. With a terrifying war scythe and an armor decorated to give her the likeness of the mythical figure of death, she leads her minions to battle against the champions of Lumea. I think the story is pretty interesting for Golden Reaper. It goes along really well with the lore for Night Revenants in general, is that oftentimes they come from other factions and they change their image, and a lot of the Night Revenants, they pretty much are kind of that death cult. And with her story, it seems like she very well could have been part of Sacred Order or Bannerlord and joined into a dark path instead and found her way in Night Revenant, and now she's a fearsome warrior and knight in this faction. This is the story for Altan. Once a warrior of near legendary prowess among his people, Altan enjoyed a life of adventure and debauchery. Like many other barbarians, he served as a mercenary, battled rival warriors for glory and bragging rights. Even as he grew older, Altan's prideful nature did not abate, and though his strength began to wane, he still craved the same renown and the elation of battle. When accused of becoming old and weak, he did not just give the offenders a good thrashing, but also vowed to face the dread dragon Hellraiser alone. Without a word, he gathered his army and departed for the Beast's Mountain. It is unknown what transpired in the dragon's lair, for Altan refuses to speak of it. Some say the Arbiter herself intervened and saved him from certain death. Whatever the case may have been, it was clear that Altan did not prevail. Yet he did not perish either. When he emerged, the old barbarian warrior appeared fused with dragon flame that will burn within him forever. He swore fealty to the Arbiter and her fight against the growing shadow, and served her chosen warriors ever since. Now, this story actually happens to include Arbiter, which is interesting. There are many stories I share where the champions find themselves almost dying, or they find themselves having a monumentous victory, and the Arbiter usually joins in, and either she gives them an ultimatum where they're going to die or they're going to serve, or she ends up rewarding them in one way or another. And so in this one, it's kind of interesting how they talk about legend, is that they believe Arbiter might have come in and intervened and saved him. However it ended up happening, this was a pretty good story that I think fits in with the barbarian faction. And the last story is for Bad-el-Kazar. Tales of a powerful necromancer known as Bad-el-Kazar have long been whispered across Teleria. He is a shadowy figure, a mastermind who prefers to act through pawns and unwitting servants rather than engage his foes in person. Even when forced to take to the battle directly, he stays behind the lines of his allies and brings the power of terrible magic to bear. Bad-el-Kazar's origins are shrouded in mystery, and much have been lost due to his own efforts. The necromancer prefers it this way, for the less his foes know, the easier it is to baffle and mislead them. But there is reason enough to believe they had once been a white mage, serving Lumea and the Sacred Order. Over the years, the lure of forbidden knowledge had driven Kazar further and further down a dark path, and his thirst for power proved to be his undoing. Surely enough, when Kazar sought to unravel the mysteries of life and death, it was the vile art of necromancy that he turned to. He collected a wealth of dark artifacts in secret, learning from them until his soul was as twisted and withered as the pages of his spellbooks. Alas, his intellect and power remained as keen as ever. And the Dark Lord Sirath did not waste an opportunity to gain such a powerful follower. His minions whispered into Kazar's dreams, guiding him towards an even greater depth of damnation. In the end, Bad-el-Kazar disappeared, wiping out as many traces of his past life as he could. Guided by visions, he traveled to the Brimstone Path, where a great portal had laid forgotten for centuries. It would be part of Kazar's grand role to ensure the portal would be reopened to allow the dread armies of demon spawn into Teleria. In exchange, he would be granted life eternal and power beyond his dreams. Kazar accepted the terms of the deal and set out into the mortal kingdoms, a herald of Sirath's evil. But who can tell if the necromancer is truly a puppet of power far beyond his reckoning, or if his cunning and ambition are directed at bringing his own nefarious schemes to fruition. I've always enjoyed this story for Bad-el-Kazar. It's It's kind of a story that we see a bit often where we have a powerful figure. So in this case, they believe he was once a white mage that served Lumea, who is the goddess of Teleria, and he wanted more power, and so he started turning to dark magic, and he turned to necromancy. And then we have Sirath, who's the evil force, that they start whispering and they start promising power, they start promising life eternal, and then you have this once holy white mage that turns to the dark side. It's a bit of a story that we often see times in stories, and we know that Bad-el-Kazar, I mean, overall, he is a pretty great champ. He's a champ that a lot of people want, and I really like the fact that they gave him such a nice backstory. If you enjoyed these stories, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, liking the video. Let me know what you think. As I mentioned, this was a bit of a different format for sharing stories. Considering that we have a 10x event this week, I thought it'd be fun to share stories for all of the champs that are part of that, because it allowed an opportunity for some of the shorter stories, such as Doompriest and Basher, and even Golden Reaper, to have their stories shared. I would love to know what you think of these stories in particular. I would love to know which is your favorites, and I can't wait to share my next video with you. Thanks so much for watching.